Hey, in this video we're going to look at the May 2023 Math SAT for the calculator section. If you're looking for the non-calculator section, I've already posted a video about that, so I'll put that in the description if you want to check it out. But yeah, first question, we have a plot here, and then it's asking us that we have 8 data points, so if you count these points, that would be 8 of them. We don't really care about that, to be honest. And then we have a line of best fit. A line of best fit is this line over here. It's basically an approximation for all the dots that we do not have. And yeah, so then it's asking us which of the following is closest to the y value predicted by the line of best fit for the x value of 3,700. This is our point of interest. But yeah, so where is 3,700? It would be somewhere over here. And if you kind of trace that up to the line of best fit, you would end up somewhere over there. And then I'm going to do it in red actually, but you'd end up somewhere over there. And then trace it to the y values, kind of like this. You would end up at, let's say, 32.5 or somewhere close to that. Once again, it's a prediction, because that's what it said. And which value is closest to 32.5 is 33. So that is our answer. Once again, it doesn't have to be exact because this is a prediction, like it said here. So that's it for question number 1. Question number 2, an object has a mass of 3,300 milligrams. What is the mass of the object in grams? So it tells us here that 1 gram is 1,000 milligrams. So this makes it pretty simple because if you want to go from milligrams to grams, you would have to divide by 1,000. Pretty simple. So 3,300 divided by 1,000 is equal to 3.3. And if you look at these choices, which one is equal to 3.3? It is 3.30 because the 0 at the end doesn't really do anything. So that's question number 2. Question number 3, what is the y-intercept of the line graph? So we have this over here, a line. What is the y-intercept? You can kind of tell what it means, but y-intercept is the y-axis interception. So where does this line cross the y-axis? It crosses the y-axis on this spot. And what is the spot? If you actually count, this would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this has to be 1. And then for the y-intercept, it happens at x is equal to 0, because this is the y-axis. So it would be 0, 1. In other words, it's C. So we're done question number 3. Question number 4. On average, 1 square inch of human skin contains 650 swag glands. A certain area of skin contains 1,170 swag glands. Based on this information, which of the following is closest to the size of this area in square inches? So pretty simple. You would divide what you have over the average that you got. So it would be 1,170 over 650. And that would be, if you put it on a calculator, which I'm going to do right now. So 1,170 divided by 650, that is 1.8. So it's going to be D. And if you look at all these options, they're all less than 1. So I already know they're all going to be wrong because we got a fraction that is greater than 1. We got a fraction that the top number is bigger. So it's kind of like you have 2 chocolates divided into 1 person. That person is going to get 2 chocolates. So the number is greater than 1. So that means this is going to be the correct answer. And then if you're wondering why I put this over this and not the opposite, it's because 650 is the average. So you have to divide the unit number. Imagine the average is the base unit of the question, and then this is what we have. Kind of the same thing with like kilometers and, I don't know, distance to the moon. So you have like, right now you have 200 kilometers, and the distance to the moon is, let's say, 1,000 kilometers, even though this is completely wrong. But then this is what percentage you are of the way. Kind of the same thing. So the bottom is the average or the base unit, and the top is what you have. So that's what we did here, and we got 1.8. Question number 5, it says the graph of the function is shown where y is equal to t of x. Which of the following types of function is graphed? So first, we can see that we have either linear or exponential. You can probably tell that yourself, but linear lines are straight, kind of going up or down. Is this a straight line? Obviously not, so we know that A and B are already wrong. Okay, then it tells us it's either increasing or decreasing. Is this line going down or is it going up like this? So since it's going down, this has to be decreasing, so the answer is D. It's literally that simple, pretty easy. Question number 6, which of the following dot plots, each with 9 data values, represents a data set with a median value that is less than 70? So if you want to find the median value, first we have to know that to find the median, if you have a few points, you would start cutting numbers off from the left and right. So for example, let's say I had numbers here. I'm going to kind of split this like that. And then you want to find the median. What you would do is first order them. So these has to be in order. And then after that, you would get rid of the left, then the right, left, right, left, right. And you would end up with either 1 or 2 numbers in the middle. And then that would be your median. So what that tells us is that we don't really care about what value we have on these boxes because we only care about the middle value. So in other words, we have to count the number of dots on the left side of 70 and on the right side of 70. If you have more dots on the left side, this would be the correct answer because it would be less than 70. So once again, the median is either pushed by the left or by the right, considering the number of dots. So if you have more dots on the left, it would be pushed to the left, and then if you have more dots on the right, the median would be pushed to the right. So let's actually find this. But for the first one, we would have 4 dots on the left and 4 dots on the right. So if you kind of find the median for this, it would be exactly 70 because it's balanced out. You can think of it that way. So the answer here is 70. That means it's wrong because we're looking for an answer that's less than 70, not 70. Part B, here we have 3 dots on the left and here we have 5 dots on the right. So this median would actually be greater than 70 because there are more dots on the right side. So this would obviously be wrong because you want a median that's less than 70. Part C, we have 5 dots here and we have 3 dots here. We have 5 dots on the left and 3 dots on the right. That means it's going to be pushed to the left since we have more dots on the left, and that means the median is going to be less than 70. So this has to be the correct answer. And just to make sure it is correct, we're going to check D. So we have 3 dots on the left, and we have 4 dots on the right. Since we have more on the right, it's going to be pushed to the right. That means this is going to be more than 70, which is wrong. So the answer must be C. Question number 7. Here we have a table. I guess 2 tables, one for the Rocky Mountain peaks and then one for the Appalachian Mountain peaks. And then it says, what is the height in meters of the Balenka Peak if 1 meter is equal to 3.2 feet? So Balenka Peak is here. It is in feet and it says 14,350. If you want to convert that to meters, you would divide by 3.28. Pretty simple. So put that in a calculator. So 14,350 divided by 3.28, that will give you 4,375. And that's pretty simple, and it's also the answer that makes most sense. If you look at all the other answers, you got 47,000, which is wrong, and you got 400, which is also pretty wrong. So B has to be the correct answer because it also makes the most sense in general. Question number 8, for the given Appalachian Mountain peaks, the height of the highest peak is approximately what percent greater than the height of the lowest peak? So we first have to look at the highest and lowest values from this table. The highest one is 6,684 and the lowest one is 6,611. So if you want to find the difference between those, you'd obviously have to subtract. So 6,684 minus 6,611 should equal to 73. And then after that, it's pretty simple. So you'd have 73 over 6,611 because this is the value you're going from. So let me write this in an arrow actually, but you're going from 6,611 to 6,684. So the denominator always has to be the number that you started with. So since we started, we're going to do it in green, since we started with this number, it has to go to the denominator. And then this would be the difference. So if you put this on a calculator, 73 divided by 6611, you would end up with 0.01104, and then a lot more digits that we don't care about. But then it says 1%, so you'd have to multiply this by 100, so your answer would be 1.1%. If you multiply by 100, you get 1.104, but yeah, if you round, you're obviously going to get 1.1%, so that has to be the answer. So the answer is A, and we're done. Okay, question number 9, we have 2 data sets, data set A and data set B. And then the question is talking about the medians of both datasets and how they compare to each other. So let's find the median of each. Pretty simple, but to find the median, first we have to check to make sure that the sets are ordered from least to greatest, which is already done. So 2, 4, 6, 6, 8, 12, that's ordered well. And then 2, 4, 6, 6, 8, 12, 26. So both of the sets are ordered. We don't have to worry about that at all. Next, we have to actually find the median. So you have to take a number from the left and take a number from the right, left, right, until you are left with either 1 or 2 numbers. If you're left with 2 numbers, you would add up the numbers and divide by 2. So 6 plus 6 divided by 2, which is 6. So the median for the first set is 6. And then for the next set, you do the exact same thing. So left, right, left, right, left, right. And then we are left with 1 number. In this case, this is already the median. We're going to have to add or divide. So both of them have a median of 6. So which of the options says that? So Option C says the medians of that data sets A and B are equal, so C is the correct answer. All of these are wrong. Question number 10, 0.79x plus 1y is equal to 100, and then the mass of a solution of isopropanol and water is 100 grams, so this is the mass, 100 grams. The given equation represents the situation where x is the volume of isopropanol, this is the volume of isopropanol, and then in cubic centimeters, and y is the volume of water, so this is water, in cubic centimeters as well. And then if the volume of isopropanol is 70 cubic meters, so if this is 70, if x is 70, what is the approximate volume of water? So basically, if this is 70, find y. And you're going to notice this with most of these questions. They have a lot of words in it just to confuse you. But in general, it's probably like a super basic algebra question, which in this case it is. So you do 0.79 times 70 plus 1.0y, or just 1y. I'm going to even make it better, just y, is equal to 100. So how would you find this? So first you would do 0.79 times 70 on a calculator. So 0.79 times 70, that would give you 55.3 plus y is equal to 100. And to find y, subtract 55.3 from both sides, and that would give you 44.7. And which of these value is the approximate volume of water? Once again, we're not looking for exact, we're looking for approximate. So which of these values is closest? It has to be 45, so the answer is A. That's it. Question number 11. There are 435 voting members of the U.S. House of Representatives. If B voting members are in favor of a certain bill, which expression represents the percentage of the voting members in favor of the bill? So first, we're looking at percentage. That means we're going to have something multiplied by 100, because that gives you percentage. That means this has to be wrong, because you don't have multiplied by 100. We have divided by 100 at some point, but that's wrong in general, because once again, you have to multiply by 100 to get the percent. And then after that, let's kind of look at more stuff. If we have 435 voting members in total, and we have B of them in favor of a certain bill, that would be B over 435. Kind of think of it as a fraction. If you have 5 blue balls out of 10 total balls, then the fraction of it would be 5 over 10, or 1/2. You would have the balls are blue. In this case, it's the exact same thing. So B values are in favor of the bill. You would have B over 435. And then to convert it into a percent, you would multiply this by 100, just like we said. So which of these values works for that? It's A, because it's B over 435 and then multiply by 100. Pretty simple. Let me just erase this just to not take up any space on the next questions. But yeah, question number 12. Here we have an equation again. And then which of the following equations has the same solution? So which of these is basically the same as this? First, we notice that all of them are x plus something. We don't have the 10 that we have here. So let's divide both sides by 10. If you divide this by 10 and divide this by 10, you would get that x plus 120 is equal to 120 divided by 10, which is 12. And does this ring any bells? Yes, it's the exact same as A, so we're done. Most of these questions, once again, they're super simple. You just have to do like one step that takes a bit of thinking and you get the answer. In this case, I divided both sides by 10 because I noticed that none of my answers had anything as a bracket. They all had x by itself. So since we had no brackets here, that means we gotta get rid of this bracket that we have here. So divide by 10 on both sides and it gives you A as your answer. So pretty simple. Question number 13. We have a graph again that shows change over time in milliseconds in a neuron's member's potential in millivolts. Once again, this is all just to confuse you. Just know that it's a graph. This is time, and this is some unit that we don't care about that much. And then and then it asks us, at which of these following times in milliseconds is the membrane potential closest to 70 millivolts? So basically, at what time is it closest to 70 millivolts? Let's kind of put that as a line. So if you draw a line here at 70, it would be over here. And by the way, it's negative because it says here negative. Don't make the mistake of looking at the values up here. This is 70, but it says negative 70, so you have to look at negative 70 over here. So I'm drawing that line, and this is what we would see, this line over here. And then at what point do we have something that's close? We have something that's close over here, and we have it here, and we have it here. So we have 0, and we have about like 1.5, I would say, and then we have at 5. So which of these is a value that we have on top? 5 is one of the answers, so that's correct. 0 is actually also one of the answers, but it's not a multiple choice answer, so we can't really circle it. So 5 has to be the only closest answer that we have. So question 14 and 15 refer to the following information that we have here. And then it says the given function C models the annual soybean use in China in millions of metric tons between 1995 and 2014. So 1995 would be like over here. And then it says number of years after 1995. So you'd add about 19, and this would be at 2014. But yeah, so it's kind of like a different way of showing a graph, but it's the exact same thing. And then it says that this would be the function C that is graphed over here. So first question, it says, which graph represents the model? So let's look at each of these graphs. First, we have 19 as the y-intercept. So which of these don't have a y-intercept of 19? D has to obviously be wrong because the y-intercept here is like 4 point something, so that is wrong. And then for C, the y-intercept here is close to 0, so that's wrong as well. So C is wrong. And then, so we have two choices left. Now we have to look at the slope and see which is closest to the value that we want. Slope is rise over 1, and let's take an average of the entire thing. So over here, the rise went from about 100 to 20, so 100 minus 20 is the rise. And then for the run, we went from about, I want to say 19 to 0. So 19 minus 0. If you put this in a calculator, 100 minus 20 is 80 over 19. Put it in a calculator, so 80 divided by 19, you would get 4.21. So that's the slope of the first one. It's already pretty close to this one. So that is kind of a sign that it might be A. And then for B, let's do the exact same thing. Over here we have, I'm going to write this over here actually smaller, so 4.21. Okay, for B we have the exact same thing. So rise over 1 again. Here the rise was only 4, so 4 is a rise, and then the run was about 19 as well. So 4 over 19, this is obviously going to be wrong, but let's put it on calculator no matter what. This would be 0.21. So which of these has a slope that is closer to 4.3? Obviously A, so A has to be the correct answer. That's pretty much it. Question 15 also depends on this formation, but it says, according to the model, what is the best interpretation of 4.3 in this context? So basically it's asking you what 4.3 tells you in English, not in math. It doesn't, we all know it's a slope because y is equal to mx plus b and m is a slope, but what does it tell you in actual English, like real life information? So first option says, each year between 1995 and 2014, China used 4.3 million metric tons of soybeans. This is wrong because in this year they used more than 4.3 million soybeans. So that has to be wrong. B, each year between 1995 and 2014, China's annual use of soybeans increased by 4.3 million metric tons. This has to be correct because it's a slope. So by, let's say, year 8, it wasn't 4.3 anymore. It was 4.3 times 8. So that is correct. B is correct. Let's still make sure that C and D are wrong. So China used 4.3 million metric tons of soybeans in 1995. 1995 is here. Did they use 4.3 million metric tons? No, they used 20. Because we still have to remember the y-intercept. We're not only going to look at 4.3, we have to consider the y-intercept. This has to be wrong. Part D, China used a total of 4.3 million metric tons of soybeans between 1995 and 2014. That is wrong, because on year 16 alone, they used about 90. So 4.3 million has to be wrong, so this is wrong as well. The answer is B, which we already knew was correct. Question 16 and 17 refer to the following information. We have a cost function, and we have a revenue function. This is a bit of financial stuff here. And then it says the given function C models its total cost, like we said. We don't care what the cost is. It's a fixed and variable cost. The fixed cost is also going to be the thing that's not multiplied by x because it stays the same no matter what. The variable cost depends on how many units we usually give out, or pump out is like a slang word for it. So this would be the variable cost because it's multiplied by x. And then it's asking us that we need to find the given information. Okay, yeah, whatever. So this is all garbage, but we don't really care about that too much. And then question number 16, actual question. According to the function R, according to the revenue function, how many bales of hay would have to be sold to earn a revenue of 1,425? So basically, if the revenue is 1,425, how many do we need to sell? What is the value of x? You would equate them together. So 4.75x is equal to 1,425. And then to find x, you would divide both sides by 4.75, like this. Put it on a calculator, x is equal to, so on a calculator, I would just say 1,425 divided by 4.75, and that would give me 300. So the answer is 300. Pretty simple. Okay, question number 17, it says, which of the following inequalities models the number of bales of hay that must be sold to earn a profit of 10,000 or more? So first off, we know that profit is equal to revenue minus cost, and if you weren't given this, you would be expected to know it. So you'd have to find it out yourself. But yeah, so profit is equal to revenue minus cost. In this case, the revenue is 4.75x, and the cost is 50,000 plus 0.75x. So if you do that, it would be 4.75x minus the entire of cost, which is 50,000 plus 0.75x. And if you subtract these, you should get 4x minus 50,000, because you would expand the negative sign over here and over here. So you'd end up with that. So first off, you can already tell that these two are going to be wrong since they have plus 50,000. We got minus, so C and D are already wrong. We can cross them off. And then now I have to figure out if it's going to be less than or greater than. So we need the profit to be 10,000 or more. So we want this piece to be more than 10,000 or at 10,000. If it's less than 10,000, we're going to get like for example, 8,000 profit. That's wrong because you want profit that's more than 10,000. So we want a number that's greater or equal to 10,000. So the answer has to be A. So that's it. Question number 17. Question number 18. So which expression is equivalent to x squared plus 4 squared and then plus x minus 2, x plus 2? First, we know this is a difference of squares. This is the easiest part in the question. This would be x squared minus 4, because you just have to do x, so x times x is x squared. And then for the 2's, 2 times 2 is 4, but then since it's a difference of squares, it would just be negative 4. So we should know this. Once again, it's difference of squares. If you have trouble thinking of it, memorize what a and b is. So a plus b times a minus b is equal to a squared minus b squared. Once again, it's called the difference of squares. Look it up if you still have trouble with it. But yeah, that's how we got from this to this. And then for the other part, it's a perfect square. So what we can do is, we know that if you expand it, I'm going to do the shortcut method. But once again, you can expand it on the spot if you have trouble with it. But once you expand this part, you should get x to the power of 4 plus 8x squared plus 16. So now let's combine both of these expressions. We would get x to the power of 4 plus 8x squared plus 16 plus x squared minus 4. Combining these, you'd have x to the power of 4 plus 9x squared. And then 16 minus 4 is 12, so plus 12. Which of these answers is this? This has to be D, so that's the correct answer. All the other ones are wrong, obviously. Question number 9, we have y is equal to 4x plus 1 and y is equal to 4x plus 3. How many solutions does this given system of equations have? First, let's try to subtract the equations like we always know how to do. This is equation 1, this is equation 2. So if you do 2 minus 1, equation 2 minus equation 1, you would have y is equal to 4x plus 3 minus y is equal to 4x plus 1. So kind of like this. If you subtract them, 3 minus 1 is 2. 4x minus 4x is 0, so 0 plus 2. And then y minus y is 0, so 0 is equal to 0 plus 2. Is this correct? Is it valid? Is 0 equal to 2? Wrong. So this is wrong. That means there are no solutions, which are... So it has to be A because there are 0 solutions. Once again, basically subtract them. Subtract both. Basically try to solve for x and y. That's what I'm trying to do here. When you subtract them, you try to solve for x or y. But then you figure out that something is wrong about your solution because 0 is not equal to 2. That means there are no solutions because it just doesn't work out. Okay, that was question number 19. Question number 20, we have h of x is equal to 3x plus 3. And then it says, which inequality represents all values of x for which the graph of y is equal to h of x in the xy plane is above the x-axis. Okay, so xy plane is another word for a normal graph. This is the xy plane. So this is, once again, just to confuse you, we can ignore it. And then it says which inequality, which of these basically, has all the values for which x is above the x-axis. So for example, if you had this line, which we do not, but let's say we did in some other question, the values that are above the x-axis are behind this. you would find out the 0, and you would circle these and say, okay, all these are above the x-axis because they're above the x-axis. Just look at the graph, basically. In this question, we have 3x plus 3. So first, let's equate it to 0. 3x plus 3 is equal to 0 because we want to see at what point does it touch the x-axis. So when you do that, you get 3x is equal to negative 3, then x is equal to negative 1. So it touches at negative 1. And then we can find out that it has a positive slope. So it looks something that looks like this. We don't care about how steep it is. It can be this, it can be this. We don't care once again. All we know is that it goes up. And that's all we care about, to be honest. But yeah, now, for which x values is it above the x-axis? Your answer should be greater than negative 1. Because once again, at this point, I'm going to do it in pink. But at this point over here, it's above the x-axis. So the answer is x is greater than negative 1. Because if you go on the left side, if it's x is less than negative 1, all these values are below the x-axis. So once again, x is greater than negative 1 because these are above the x-axis. And it's that simple. So we're done. Question number 21. It says here that we have some type of graph or function. Then it says the graph models the mass y in nanograms of cobalt-60. Once again, this is all to confuse you, so we don't really care about this at all. And then the half-life of cobalt-60 is 5.27 years. So now we know that, first off, this represents the number of half-lives that the cobalt has gone through, I guess. And then it says this is the mass remaining, because we know that this is more scientific, but if the half-life gets passed, the cobalt decreases. The amount of cobalt left decreases. You can think of it as decomposing. And then it says the actual question is, what is the mass in nanograms of cobalt-60 remaining in the sample after 10.54 years? So if the half-life is 5.27, how many half-lives do we pass for 10.54 years? So 10.54 divided by 5.27 is equal to 2. That means if you wait 10.54 years, you have gone through 2 half-lives. So now you look at 2 half-lives, because that's the number we went through, and then you go look at the value of it. It's about here, which is 1.25. That's a close answer to the number of mass of nanograms that is left for the cobalt-60 sample that they have. So 1.25, because just read the graph over here. That's close to 1.25. Question number 22. Which quadratic equation has no real solutions? So first, for this question, if you ever get asked about real solutions, you have to think about the quadratic formula. So for the quadratic formula, it says that x is equal to negative b plus minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Something else you have to know is that the square root part, I'm going to circle it in green, but this part over here dictates if you have real solutions or imaginary solutions or no solutions at all, or whatever you want to kind of search for. Because first off, you cannot take the square root of a negative number. Let's say if this was the square root of 3 or negative 3, this would be wrong because there are no real solutions. So we are looking for one of these to have a square root of a negative number. So what is b is equal to b squared minus 4ac? That's what we're trying to find. As long as this is negative, we pass the solution and that would be the correct answer. So first off, in the first question, in part A, b is 0 because we have 0x here. So b is 0, so 0 minus, and then 4 times, in this case, a is 3, so 4 times 3, and then c is negative 3, so times negative 3. This will be equal to 4 times 3 is 12 times 3 is 36. And it's positive 36 because there are 2 negative signs. Is this a negative number? No. So A has to be wrong. Once again, we are looking for a negative answer in this expression. So A is wrong. Let's do this again for B. So B, we have A is equal, first off B, so this would be 3 squared minus 4 times, in this case A is 3, so multiply by 3, and C is 0. So this multiplies by 0, and then 3 squared is 9, and then all this is 0, 9 minus 0 is 9. Is this negative? No. So B is also wrong because it has real solutions. So this is wrong. Let's erase it. Let's try it for C now. This time for B it is equal to 3. So 3 squared and then minus 4. A is equal to 3 as well. So times 3. And then C is equal to 3 as well. So times 3 again. 3 squared is 9 minus 4 times 3 is 12 times 3 is 36. So 9 minus 36, which is equal to negative 27. Is this a negative number? Yes. So if it's a negative number, we would have the square root of negative 27, which is not real. It's actually imaginary. You would study that later. But this is not real, so that means this makes it invalid. That means C is the answer. But just to make sure, we found out the answer, but let's make sure that D is also a real solution, just so that we know we are correct. So yeah, let's do it again. We would have b squared. B squared is -6. So -6 squared minus 4 times a is 3, so 3. C is 3 as well, so 3. -6 squared is the exact same as 6 squared. It's 36. Then minus 4 times 3 times 3 is 36. So 36 minus 36 is 0. Since it's not negative, you can still take the square root of 0. It would just be square root of 0, which is 0. So it's possible. That means D has to be wrong, because we still have one solution for D. That means the answer must be C, because that was the only one with a negative square root. So the answer is C. Question number 23. Here we have a triangle, and it says which equation is not true. So by looking at this, I can already tell it uses the SOHCAHTOA thing. So SOHCAHTOA. This is the trigonometry rules that you have to memorize. But all it says is that for sine, it would be opposite over hypotenuse. For cosine, it would be adjacent over hypotenuse. For tangent, it would be opposite over adjacent. So this is an acronym basically that I memorized. But if you have trouble with it, you can basically find sine x using some other way. But yeah, sine x should be opposite over hypotenuse. So 42 over 59. So sine x is equal to 42 over 59. Since that matches our first expression, that means A is correct, but the question is asking for what's not correct, so A is not our choice. So that's A for A. For B, let's do the exact same thing. We know that sine 90 minus x is cosine of x. This is something you have to memorize as well. But yeah, is cosine of x equal to 42 over 59? No, this is wrong. Sine x is 42 over 59. Cosine x cannot be the same, so it's wrong. This is sine x. Oh, I mean, this is actually right. It's not true, so we're going to circle it. But yeah, so question C, this would be sine x. And then is sine x 42 over 59? We already said it is because it's the exact same as this. So this is not an option that we consider. And for D, is cosine x minus cosine x 0? Yes, this is correct because this is cosine x and this is cosine x. If you subtract them together, you get 0. That means D is not a choice. So B must be the correct answer because it's the only wrong one that we have. Okay, question number 24. In 1976, there were approximately 1,000 gray wolves in northern Minnesota. The number of gray wolves in northern Minnesota in 2008 was 190% greater than in 1976. And then it says approximately how many gray wolves were in northern Minnesota in 2008. So pretty simple again. All you have to do is look at this percent and multiply by 1,000 because that's the percent increase. That's how much more we have. So 1,000 times 190% is the exact same as 1.9. If you do this, you're going to get 1,900. But the answer is not 1,900 because this is the increase. If it's the increase, we still have to find out how much we had originally, which is 1,000. So now we know that if you add 1,000 plus 1,900, you would get 2,900, which is C. So C is the correct answer. Once again, what we found here is called the increase, but you have to add it to the original number that we have to find out how much we have totally, how much we have now totally. That's why the answer is C, and we're done. Question number 25. When the quadratic function f is graphed in the xy plane, where y is equal to f of x, its vertex is at -2, 5. Then one of the x-intercepts is at -7/3, and then what is the other x-intercept of the graph? Okay, let's graph this. This is at 2, 5, the vertex. So, -2, 5, sorry. So -2, 5 would be over here. I'm going to do it in red, actually. This is -2, 5, the vertex. And then one of the x-intercepts is -7/3. So if it has x-intercepts, it has to be opening downwards. Because if it opened upwards, like this, there wouldn't be no x-intercepts. It doesn't ever touch the x-axis. So we know it opens downwards. Well, we don't really care about this. It's just something that we can use to help us. So this is -2 over here. And then this is at -7/3. And we want to find out where this is. I'm going to do it in blue, but we want to find out where this part is. How do you do that? We know that any parabola is symmetrical. So if we draw this green line kind of like this going down, we know that this distance is going to be the same as this distance. These are equal because a parabola is symmetrical. So you want to find out the difference between both of these, and add it to find the difference between both of these, and you would have the x value over here. So let's do that. You would have -2 minus -7/3. This will give you -2 plus 7/3. And if you actually find that out, this would be 0, or actually 1/3. If you, once again, you can do this on calculator, but I already know it. It's 1/3. After that, it's pretty simple. Let's add 1/3 this way, because we found out this distance. I'm going to do it in red. This distance is 1/3, so we need to add 1/3 here to get what this would be. So -2 plus 1/3, this will give you -5/3. That means it happens at -5/3, but since it's an x-intercept, we know that the y value has to be 0. So comma 0, but all of them were comma 0 anyway, so you don't even have to worry about that, to be honest. But so -5/3 is over here, so the answer has to be B. Once again, it's symmetrical, so I'm going to do this in a different color, but we found this distance, and then find the exact same distance and put it to the right because it's a symmetrical thing. A parabola is symmetrical. So question number 26 now. We have two data sets, and then the box plots summarize data set X and data set Y. Each of the data sets consists of a total of 100 integers. Which of the following statements must be true? So the mean of the data set X is less than the mean of data set Y. Is this true? We don't know. If you have a box plot, all you can tell is the median. The median would be on these lines over here. I'm going to do them in red, but this is the median of each one. We know nothing about the mean, so this could be or it cannot be true. But since the question says must be true, we cannot confirm that. We don't know. So 1 is considered wrong in this case. For 2, it says that the median of dataset X is less than the median of dataset Y. So is this median less than this? Yes, because this is about 6 and this is about 5. Is 5 less than 6? Yes. So question number 2 is correct. That means it has to be 2 only. So the answer is B. Question number 27. For an exponential function g, the value of g of x decreases by 20% for each 1 unit increase in the value of x. If g of 2 is equal to 16, what equation could define g? Okay, so it's an exponential function, and we lose 20% each time, so we are left with 0.8% each time. You have to know this, but for an exponential function of this form, what goes in the bracket is what you have left over. Once again, if it decreases by 20%, you're left with 80%. That means both of these are already wrong because they have 0.2 in them. That's wrong. You have to have 0.8 in them because that's what you have left. And now we need to make g of 2 is equal to 16 on this graph. So when you plug in 2, it should give you 16. Let's try that. So for the first one, if you plug in 2, g of 2 would be equal to 16 times 0.8 to the power of 2 minus 2, which is 0, which is equal to 16. This is correct because it matches what we want. For b, let's try that too. G of 2 is going to be equal to 16 times 0.8, but this time it's going to be 2 plus 2, which is 4. If you put this in a calculator, so 16 times 0.8 to the power of 4, you're going to get 6.5536. Is this the same as 16? No. So we know this is wrong. The answer has to be A. So pretty simple. I just did process of elimination here. Otherwise, it'll take you a bit of time, so we don't want that. We just want to be done as fast as possible. So process of elimination always is the fastest. Question number 28. Micah and Rana each selected a random sample of students. Okay, so this part, I can already tell, garbage. We don't really care about it because it's words that we don't really need to read. But yeah, basically, Micah's results showed that there were 7.1 mean number of soft drink servings and 1.2 margin of error. And then for Rana, it was 8.3 with a 0.8 margin of error. Then assuming the margins of error were calculated in the same way, which of the following best explains why Rana obtained a smaller margin of error than Micah. So what we have to know is that when you are looking at a survey or kind of a test, if you survey more people or have more people involved in the survey, you're going to have a lower margin of error. And that's obvious because you have a more accurate sample. You have more people, so it represents a bigger and wider sample of people. So all we know right now is that we had more people in Rana's test. That's all we know for now. So the first one says, Rana's sample contained more students. Like we said, this is correct, but let's just check all the other solutions just to make sure that we have the final answer. Part B says Rana's sample contained more students who drank soft drinks, then mic is sample contained. No, this is wrong because even though it might be correct, it might be true, it doesn't explain why Rana obtained a much smaller margin of error. The mean changes, but the margin of error does not change with the number of people who drink more soft drinks or not. So this only changes the mean, not the margin of error. Part C, Rana sample contained more students who drank exactly 7 soft drinks. Once again, if you're looking at the number of people who drank soft drinks, if that's what's being compared, you're going to be changing the mean, not the margin of error, so this is wrong again. And then D, that Rana sample contained more students, so yeah, same thing, who drank exactly 8 soft drinks. Once again, if you're looking more about the soft drink servings, then you're going to be changing the mean, not the margin of error, so this is also wrong. That means A is correct, so let's circle it. A is correct. Question number 29. A circle in the xy plane has its center at -3, 4, and the point -2, 1 lies on the circle. Which equation represents the circle? So first you have to memorize, or you have to know the equation of a circle. It is x minus a squared plus y minus b squared is equal to r squared. So r is obviously the radius, it's the circle. A is the horizontal shift. So for example, if you move it 3 to the right, A is going to be equal to 3. That's an example. And then B is the vertical shift. So if you move it, let's say 3 upwards, B is going to be equal to 3. So up and right are positive. But then if you move it, let's say to the left, you're going to have negative. And if you move it down, you're going to have negative. So let's actually do that now. So first we know that we moved it 3 to the left and 4 up. This is because the center is at -3, 4. So 3 to the left and 4 up, it means that A is equal to -3 and B is equal to 4. Because to the left is negative and upwards is positive. So that's how I got this. And now let's plug him in into this equation. You would have x plus 3 squared plus y minus 4 squared is equal to, we don't know what r is yet, so let's leave it for now. But once again, all I did is I plugged in -3 into A. So negative minus gives you positive. So 2 negatives make it positive. And then if you have 4, y minus 4. That's all that happened here. So I just plugged in A and B. Now to find the radius, let's actually kind of plot this. But -3, 4, the center of the circle, it would be somewhere over here. That's all we know for now. And then the point -2, 1 would be somewhere over here. And if you draw the circle, you get something that looks like this. Something that looks like that because that's the circle. So once again, this is center and then this is the point on the circle. Now you want to find out what this distance is. So if I zoom in a lot, this is the Pythagoras theorem. Imagine this was a right angle triangle, kind of like that. So you want to find the vertical distance and the horizontal distance and find the radius from that because this is going to be the radius. So I'm going to draw a triangle here. But yeah, so this is going to be the radius. This is going to be the vertical distance and this is going to be the horizontal distance, x. So now we want to find out what the vertical distance is, y. So you do -3 minus -2, which is -1. That means you went 1 down. In other words, y is equal to 1. Because we want distance, we don't care about the direction. So it has to be a positive number. So y is equal to 1. And then for x, you do the exact same thing. You would do 4 minus 1 because we're going to circle these. This is 4. And this is 1. So 4 minus 1 is equal to 3. So x is equal to 3. Now we just want to do Pythagoras theorem. You would do x squared plus y squared, which is equal to 1 squared plus 3 squared, which is equal to 1 plus 9, which is 10. So that's r squared. So r is equal to square root of 10. Okay, we just found r. Pretty simple. Once again, Pythagoras theorem. After that, there's one more thing to do. We have r squared here. So you'd actually square it back to plug it into here. So if r is equal to square root of 10, r squared is going to be equal to 10. That means you put 10 over here, and we have our answer. So this is our final answer. Let's now look for a solution that looks like it, and it is D. We have x plus 3 squared. We have y minus 4 squared is equal to 10. So D is the answer, and we're done. I'm also going to erase a bunch of this stuff because we need space for the next couple of questions. Next up, we have question number 30. For the quadratic function h, the table gives 3 values of x and their corresponding values of h of x. And then at what value of x does h reach its minimum? So first we know it's a quadratic formula or function. So it's a parabola. And we know that these are the x-intercepts at 2, and at 4. So this is all we know for now because the y values over here are 0. So these are the x-intercepts. And then we know that this point exists. So 6, 8 is over, let's say, here. That means if you connect all these dots, we know it's going to be opening upwards. So the minimum is going to be over here. So let's find that now. But since we know that a parabola is symmetric, and these are both the x-intercepts, between them should be the minimum. Because once again, it's symmetric. That's what a parabola is always going to look like. So if this is 2 and this is 4, what's between 2 and 4? 3. So the minimum occurs at 3. That's it. We are done. Pretty simple. Question 31. A certain rock band released 20 music albums from 1963 to 1970. So we know the sum of all of these should give you 20. And then it says, as shown in the bar graph, and then if one of these albums is selected at random, what is the probability of selecting an album that was released in 1964? So 1964 is our year of interest. It's going to be this line over here, which is equal to 7. So if you want to find the probability, you always want to find out the probability of interest, so number of items that you want over the number of items in total, so total. And then it says express your answer as a decimal or a fraction, but not as a percent. So let's keep it as a fraction because that's what our answer would be anyways. So yeah, let's keep it as a fraction. The numerator, like we said, is going to be 7 because that's the number of items we're interested in. 1964, there were 7 albums. And then the total number of items is 20 because it says in the question, there were 20 music albums released in this range of period. So the answer is 7 over 20. We're done. That's pretty much it. So just find the probability. Okay, that's question 31. Question 32. A company decides to sponsor an employee bowling team. The cost to form the team is $180 per team member plus a one-time $25 team registration fee. So if you want to make a function for this, so the cost function would be equal to, there's a one-time $25 fee, so $25 as a start. Even if you register one member, it's $25, and then plus 180x, because that's per team member. So let's say if you had one team member, this would be times 1. If you had 2 team members, this would be times 2, and so on. But 25 is fixed. $180 is the variable payment or variable finance, whatever you want to call it. And now we want to make this equal to $925 because that's the maximum amount the company can spend. And we want to find out how many team members can go on this trip. So if the cost is equal to $925, and we want to equate this to our equation that we made, so 25 plus 180x. Now we want to find what x is, so solve for x. So you have 900 is equal to 180x. And if you divide both sides by 180, you can do it on calculator. You get that x is equal to 5. So this is the answer, and that tells us that you can have 5 people go on this trip for the company. That's it. Question 33, we have 2 equations. And then the solution to a given system of equations is x comma y. What is the value of x? So basically, solve for x. We notice that y here is positive and y here is negative, so add both equations. If this is equation 1 and this is equation 2, we want to add them together. So 1 plus 2. This will give us, I'm going to draw an arrow, but 3x plus 2x is 5x. Positive 4y plus negative 4y goes away, so we don't even have y's. So this will be equal to 18 plus 17 is 35. And then divide both sides by 5. X is equal to 7. That's it. We are done. So 7 is the value of x. Question 34. For the elements in the periodic table having atomic numbers 1 through 18, the bar graph summarizes the number of elements by the number of valence electrons that they have. Once again, this is all garbage, really. We don't really care. It's just there for the question. We don't care about it that much. And then the actual question says, how many of these elements have at most is a keyword here, at most 4 valence electrons. So we have 1 or 2 valence electrons here. We have 3 or 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Since we are asked to have at most 4 valence electrons, 5 or 6 we don't care about, 7 or 8 we don't care about, because these are too much for us to ask. If you want at most 4 valence electrons, you can have 1, 2, this is valid. You can also have 3 or 4 because you still didn't pass 4, so we are good. Basically, you want to find out how much these add up to. So how many elements have 1 or 2 valence electrons? We have 6. because this is 6. And then how many elements have 3 or 4 valence electrons? We have 4, because this is at 4. And then how many of these elements in total have at most 4 valence electrons? 6 plus 4 is equal to 10. So we have 10 elements. That is the final answer. We are done. Question 35. If this is that, what is the value of 3x? So basically, solve for 3x. Over here you have 5 root 3x. If you add 2 to both sides, this will be equal to 15, because plus 2, these goes away, and then plus 2. 13 plus 2 is 15. Okay, after that, divide both sides by 5. So you get the square root of 3x is equal to 15 divided by 5 is 3. And we want 3x, so let's square both sides to get rid of the square root. So square like this, and then you'd have 3x is equal to 3 squared, which is 9. So let's stop here, because we're not solving for x. We're solving for 3x. So 3x is equal to 9, that's it. This is the answer, and we're done. Question 36, if x over y is equal to 8, and 2x over ty is equal to 160, I'm going to box that up too. What is the value of t? Okay, so first off, let's get rid of these x and y's. How do you do that? We notice that both of them have the same thing, x over y. And this has x over y, but it's being multiplied by 2 over t. So let's divide. I'm going to call this equation 1. I'm call this equation 2. Let's divide 1 divided by 2. Let's do that, because then we would get rid of all these x and y's, because you would divide them. And if you, let's say, if you divide something by itself, you get 1. So we want to get rid of them. So this will give you 2x over ty divided by x over y is equal to 160 divided by 8. Once again, divide this by this. Equation 1 divided by equation 2. Now let's solve. This would be 2x over ty multiplied by y over x is equal to 160 divided by 8 is 20. So over 20. And then x go away, y go away. So we got that 2 over t is equal to 20. In other words, t is equal to 2 over 20, which is equal to 1 over 10. And that is your answer once again. We are done. Very simple. Question 37. The table summarizes the distribution of an assigned group for participants in a study. And then one of these participants will be selected at random. What is the probability of selecting a participant from group A, given that the participant is at least 10 years old? Basically, if you have given that, this is a very important keyword, given that this is important, it means that you're not even going to consider less than 10 years, because we know that we have only above 10 years of age of students, so this is not part of our test. But if you were asked in some other question, what is the probability of selecting someone from group A who is at least 10 years of age, then you'd consider everything, and you would have the probability of these two over whatever the total number is. But in this case, our total number is only going to be 60 plus 60, because you don't care about the first column. This is not in our interest. We're going to cross it out. Okay, so once again, like we said before, probability is going to be equal to the number of items we want. So number of items over total. In this case, the number of items is going to be in group A, who are above 20. So 18 plus 22, which is 40. And the total number of items is going to be 60 plus 60, which is 120. If you divide this on a calculator, you get 1 over 3. And we are done. This is our answer once again. That's the probability of getting someone who is from group A, given that the participant is at least 10 years old. And once again, the answer we expressed is a fraction, so we are good. We don't have to change that. Last question, in the figure shown, point B and the center of each circle lie on AC. So point B is here, and then the centers of both circles lie on this exact same line. And then the ratio of AB to BC is 4 to 1. So if this is 4, this is 1. It's a ratio. It doesn't mean that this is equal to 4 and this is equal to 1. It could be 8 and 2. It could be 12 and 3. But it's a ratio. So we know that this is the common ratio between both of the numbers. And then it says, if the area of the small circle is 72, so this area over here of the small circle is 72, what is the area of the shaded region? So already I know if there's a shaded region question, it's going to involve having the area of the big circle minus the area of the small circle to get you the shaded region. So once again, think of the big circle minus small circle. That would give you the area that we want. So first, we need to find the radius of this small circle, which will give us the radius of the bigger circle using the ratio that they gave us here. So the radius of the small circle, we know that area is equal to pi r squared. In this case, the area is 72, so 72 is equal to pi times r squared. We are trying to find r, so now you're just gonna do r is equal to 72 over pi, then this is r squared, so we want to square root both sides, so r is equal to square root of 72 over pi. That's what r is of the small circle, so this part. But then, now we have to find the radius of the big circle. So what we can do is multiply it by 2 to get the diameter. So multiply this by 2, you would have the diameter of the small circle. That would be, so 2r is equal to 2 times the square root of 72 over pi. And then, if this is equal to 4, this is equal to 1. So let's divide it by 4 to get this part. So if you divide it by 4, you would get 2 over 4 times the square root of 72 over pi. And this is basically this small part over here. Now let's add everything up. Let's add 2 of these, which is the diameter, plus the small part that we just found. If you add them up, you should get 2.5 times the square root of 72 over pi. Once again, this is 2 and this is 0.5. So 2 plus 0.5 is 2.5. Pretty simple. And now, if we know all of this, all we have to do now is, this is the diameter of the big circle. Find the radius of the big circle. So basically divided by 2. I'm going to write it over here. I'm going to erase some of this word because we don't need it anymore. So this would be that. But yeah, so the diameter of the big circle is 2.572 over pi. So radius of the big circle is going to be 2.5 over 2 times the square root of 72 over pi, because that's the radius. Just divide the diameter by 2. And now from here, you want to find the area of the big circle, because we want to find the area of the small region. Once again, big circle minus small circle. So now we have the radius of the big circle. We know that the radius, I'm going to erase some of this as well. But so I'm just going to do this. But yeah, so area is equal to pi r squared. R is this now. So we're going to have pi times 2.5 over 2 times square root of 72 over pi all squared. And then put this in the calculator. You should get, we're going to do it now. So that plus, okay, you should get 112.5. And now, final step, we know that this area of the small circle is 72. And now the area of the big circle is 112.5. So 112.5 minus 72 would give you 40.5, and that is the area of the shaded region, and you're done. So recap, we got the area of the big circle and subtracted the area of the small circle. But how did we do that? To find the area of the big circle, you have to find the radius of the small circle first, multiply by 2 to get the diameter, and then you would have this part that is in red. So we got to find the smaller part now. We divided by 4 and added everything together. After that, you would end up with the diameter of the big circle, divided by 2 to get the radius of the big circle. You get about this part. And then if you have the radius of the big circle, you can find the area of the big circle, which is what we want, and then subtract the area of the small circle. So it's a big loop, but you can feel free to replay the part of me saying this because it's a bit hard to understand. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. I hope you understand, but my next video is going to be probably another SAT exam to go over.